letter of resignation.
Good evening, everyone. Yes, the letter of resignation comes from Lisa Clark, who is our bookkeeper. She has the letter here with her sincere gratitude for the opportunity to serve the Lebanon Public School District and feels that the challenges and growth she experienced have enabled her to have a job that advances her career and also lets her have a better work-life balance. Along the lines of staffing, though, I did want to sneak in, and I'd love to invite all of our new staff members every board meeting. It's just not always all that feasible. We did have Nicholas Jamrock join the LES team as a paraeducator. Roger Moyer joined the high school as a paraeducator. Haley Bender, who was working as the LES administrative assistant, moved up to the middle school. Martha Starkey Castro is now the bookkeeper. Jessica Beeker joined our team at the middle school as an 8th grade science teacher, and Ashley Ost will be the new LES administrative assistant starting on the 20th of this month.
Welcome to all of those new employees. All right, now we would like to have our public participation. According to the Lebanon Board of Education bylaws, we will allocate up to 30 minutes with each individual speaker allocated 2 minutes to speak. At this time, are there any members of the public who wish to speak this evening? Okay, seeing none, we'll move along to our consent agenda.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Okay, motion by John, seconded by Maureen. Any discussion? All those in favor, please raise your hand. And that passes unanimously. Nicole, you can have the next one.
Okay.
Our student representatives report. Lexi, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing great, and I hope you all are doing great too. Okay, so I'm going to start off with LES and then LMS and then the high school. So LES, the Lebanon Elementary School, hosted the fire department today for a fire safety assembly. The students saw the fire trucks and received fire prevention bags. In the following weeks, there are also some exciting events, such as the book fair and goodies with grandparents, as well as a visit from the therapy dog Brody at the Lebanon Middle School. At the end of September, many new members were welcomed into the Lebanon Junior Honor Society. There's a Panther Den this Friday that is Halloween themed. Also upcoming are 2 field trips for the 7th grade students. They will be going to Project O and the Mystic Aquarium. At Lyman, the girls volleyball team went to Mohegan Sun last night for a showcase. They won their game against Ledyard. Their current record is 9 wins and 4 losses. They have their breast cancer awareness Dig Pink game tomorrow night here at Lyman. The boys soccer team has 3 wins, 6 losses, and 1 tie. Cross country had an invitational at Wickham Park over the weekend, where one of our girls cross country runners placed 3rd in the entire meet, which was really, really impressive. Cross country had their senior night tonight. Our girls soccer team is currently undefeated, and they have the best record in the CIAC with 9 wins and 1 tie, and they have an away game tomorrow. Homecoming is coming up this month and will take place on Saturday the 29th. The fall drama is coming up shortly. Their opening night is on November 4th, and they have another show November 5th. PSATs are tomorrow for sophomores and juniors. During this time, the seniors will be working on their senior projects, and the freshmen will be working on social emotional learning with the movie Inside Out. This Friday, October 14th, students from Lisbon will be visiting Lyman. This year at Lyman's Model UN will be representing Japan, and they're taking a field trip to the United Nations building in New York City on October 20th. And the music department will be taking students to the Charter Oak Music Festival on November 7th and 9th with their concert on the 9th. 19 chorus and band students will be putting on a concert with other music students from surrounding towns.
Awesome.
all I got. So,
Thanks, Lexi.
Susie.
thank you.
Can I ask a question? Do you know what the name of the show, what is the show that they're doing?
And then there were none. It's a murder mystery. I heard it's kind of Clue-like. So.
Ooh, sounds intriguing. Any other questions for Lexi? Well, thank you so much, Lexi.
Thanks, Lexi.
All right, well, if none of you are
Yes.
opposed, I have PSATs tomorrow, so I've got to get home and get a
Good luck.
night.
Get a good night's sleep.
Thank
you. Okay, we'll move on to our reports of our committees. Let's start on this end. Dawn, you don't have safety and security, right? No. Okay. Danelle, curriculum.
I'm going to keep it brief, I hope. So we met tonight to get some grant updates. Rita's been busy with 4 different grants. 2 of them have come back in our favor already, Title I and Title II. Title I is $142,000 approximately, and Title II is $24,000. One is used for a full-time teacher as well as benefits for ELA or math. And the second grant is for professional development of ELA and math as well. We'll probably have the results for Title III and IV next month. We also talked about review of the professional development for October and the district PD. IAs were included this year, which is a kind of a new thing for us. iReady training at LES and LMS. Inclusive training happened at LMS and LMHS, and the Choose Love curriculum for SEL was attended virtually. So that's a recap of this month's PD. And then agenda item 4 was a Serve Safe accreditation for the ASTI program happening in November. This will allow us to have the proper food safety things in place in order for us to have accreditation, sort of restaurant safety. The National Restaurant Association safety guidelines for food safety. And possibly in the future, our foods teacher will also be able to get this accreditation. This is great for purposes of expanding our ASTI foods and nutrition production. A new course textbook has been proposed, and we've already approved the course for foods and nutrition for sports and exercise, and it will be on display in the library starting tomorrow for 1 month. So if anybody in the public would like to take a look at it, it'll be available tomorrow. This was already approved and in our budget, so it's just, we had to do the formalization of approval. Finally, a follow-up on our website. If anybody has any questions or comments, please send them to Rita. But the website has been continued to be updated. Our reading program, K-3, will be talked about a little bit more in depth during our board meeting, but we talked about how the state has given us 6 different options, but things are constantly changing, so we're not making any decisions on that yet. And again, Andy will go into full detail about that soon. There are some really cool drone pictures that have been posted on the website, and Andy's update coming up from our drone class. And as you can look around the grounds, our turf management course is also in action. We also had a update on the NGSS at Lyman because our data is a little surprisingly low, and we talked about some changes in where we have the testing done and what time of year we'll have the testing done, and they're also looking at some of our materials and how they align with the units better that are expected for the testing. And that's it, I think. Yes?
Great, thanks, Danelle. Any questions?
Our full data presentation is tonight. We're looking forward to that very much.
Great, thanks, Danelle. John, Superintendent Eval.
No report, except that Superintendent Gonzalez will regale us with his goals at some point today.
That's fantastic. That will happen during executive session. All right, Alexis, negotiations.
Negotiations are still meeting. We're having positive, productive conversations, so we're still moving along.
Yes, we are. Maureen, policy.
Policy, we have 1 second reading today, and several of us are going to a seminar tomorrow morning on some policy issues, so we will be having a meeting shortly, as soon as I schedule one, now that I'm back in town, and policy will meet. We'll have more next time.
Thanks, Maureen. Finance and facilities, Nicole.
Okay, I'll try and make this brief. We started off by talking about the LES ventilation. There is a grant that is through the state, we are going to recommend that we move forward with the grant application. And it is a reimbursable project of 50%. And it has to be done by the end of this year, like December 1st. Next on the agenda was the LMS asbestos. It will cost approximately $305,000, but that's with LES included. The town has given us $160,000, and we are going to move forward with that, hopefully this summer. Yeah. And then next is the Lyman Roof, repairs to the roof. The entire project to replace the roof is just short of $4 million. There is a 40% grant from the state, but the earliest that we're looking at is the summer of 2024. So we will speak to a few people including the town Board of Finance, to see what our options are for this project. The Asti Barn, October 17th and 18th will be groundbreaking, hopefully. There is a signed contract. Money has been encumbered. $49,000 was given to us through that grant for the barn. Next, we talked about snow and ice removal. Pondview will be doing it again for this year. And I believe that has to be an action item tonight. Yes. And then we will start the bidding process hopefully early, like March next year, for new snow and ice removal. Then we talked about finally the 2023-24 budget. October 12th, the budget books were due from the schools. There might be an extension on that. Staff input is in December. We are going to have a subcommittee meeting of this Finance and Facilities Subcommittee meeting in November to discuss the budget. March 1st is going to be a special meeting to review from Board of Finance. And then we will be asking Jacques, Kevin, and Scott to come to one of our December subcommittee meetings so that we can get more information on the capital requests. And that's it.
Thanks, Nicole. Questions? I think there were just a couple of clarification things. I wanted to just speak just a little bit more about the HVAC grant. So, and Andy, you can pop in too. Just that the process is, and what the requirements are more rigorous than what anybody kind of was anticipating.
Yes.
Even with our conversations with the Board of Finance, we were all kind of anticipating that money would be available to most districts for improving the air quality of schools, but in order to qualify, you have to have certain things already in the works. Fortunately, we have many of those things already in the works.
Right.
So we're liking our chances, just kind of like with feelers out via email through CABE and whatnot. The idea or the thoughts out there are that a lot of districts don't have these things in the works, and we do. So maybe that could benefit us.
Yes.
Who knows? So it's kind of good news for us that we do have what we have. It's still a stretch for us to have everything by that December 1st deadline. So the project doesn't need to be completed by that time, but we do need to have all of the paperwork in by that time. Anything else on that?
Yeah, so I would just kind of go back. The state had anticipated releasing this information in July, which a couple months means a lot when you're dealing with a short window of time. This information didn't come out until September, so it put everybody behind. They also hadn't released that it would be a reimbursable grant, so now you need that funding up front, which is something that we're going to have to work towards and try to figure out. We would not have to go to referendum because of the amount, but it still would have to go to town meeting. Since our Facilities and Finance Subcommittee meeting, I did meet with the chairperson of the Board of Finance to have a discussion. I have met with the first selectman, and we actually had an energy consultant come out and do an audit of our systems on Friday, towards the end of our PD day. They have not submitted a report to us yet, but the contractor actually did call me at 5:30ish to apologize for not having it. So they're working hard. If we were able to go in that direction, it would be helpful because it would be an expert that knows how to handle these grants and application process and all the specs of the project that come along with it. Just another hiccup that we're trying to get through, the website, the core website that you have to fill out the CT core that you have to fill out the application. I'm not even an administrator listed on there, and the person at the town who has to give me the rights no longer works for the town. So we're uncovering some of these challenges and working our way through them with anticipation that we're going to get it done by the 1st.
So the energy consultant that came out did all 3 schools, correct? Not just LES?
No, we had a focus at the elementary school.
Just LES, okay, great.
And the only other thing with the reimbursable grant percentages, there are sliding scales. So when we use these figures, they were rough. There is a grant table that has exactly where Lebanon stands, and I can get those figures because it might not be exactly what we shared out in the notes.
Okay.
Great. Any questions on that? All right. Thanks, Nicole.
Yep.
And no, Brian. Bruce, enrollment.
Enrollment subcommittee didn't meet.
Okay, great. Okay. Yes. Governance did not meet either this month. I was just going to share the Board of Finance conversations that I just shared in Finance and Facilities. But those conversations continue to happen, especially, keeping the town and the Board of Finance, aware of where we are, particularly with our facilities.
Yeah, and I could add, I am now going to be like a standing agenda item, not me personally, but an update from the superintendent, just to establish more connections and communications with the Board of Finance. So I will be on the next meeting later this month.
All right, great, thank you. Moving on to our administrators report.
I know that our leadership team is always very eager to come up front and share additional things from their updates. They did a great job putting together the written portion of their update, and because we have such a busy agenda, unless there is anything urgent, we'll kind of move on and save some of our time for the data presentation, if that's okay with the board.
That's totally fine. Anything urgent? Okay. All right, great, thank you. So now we'll move on to your report.
Thank you. So enrollment is stable. Families that have moved in seem to really be settling in and enjoying our educational environment. We have not had many families move out. I think that's typical for this time of the year. It will be here again in November as an agenda item. I'll keep you posted. But I do want to focus in your packet. You should have something that shows the number of students who are attending the technical high schools, as well as those that are attending a magnet school. And if you look from the column 21-22 and then to the very far left column 22-23, you can see that both Norwich Tech and Windham Tech enrollment are down, thus bringing total tech enrollment from 67 down to 54, which is good for us. And you also see that the magnet enrollment is down just a little bit. I think what I'd like to highlight even more than that is on the next page. These are the number of students from out of town that are attending Lyman and our total tuition in students. So last year we had 49 such students that were a part of our ASTE program. This year we're up to 59. And you see a nice jump there specifically from Basra in Region 8. And then if you look down just in the Lyman population as a whole, we went from 15 out-of-town students to 32. And again, a sizable jump there in Basra. So if you look at our total tuition in students, we're up, about 25 students, which is really a credit to, not only the great offerings that I think we have here at Lyman, but how we're promoting, how we're communicating. I think Mr. Apicelli and Mrs. Singleton were actually at a school of choice today, participating in an event. So they're working really hard to make sure that the good things that we're doing here at Lyman are being shared. Any questions about enrollment?
I just want to say thank you for doing this. I think I asked you to do this last month.
You're welcome.
It's useful.
Homework.
It's useful to look at it this way.
Yeah.
I'll make sure to relay that to Chelsea and Christine Chalafu. Moving on to the COVID update. So far this year, we have 30 total student cases and just over 10 for staff, actually 11 staff cases. This number is close to where we were, I think, around this time last year. It seems that most of our sicknesses started picking up in the November, December timeframe. So we'll keep a close eye on this. You know, we've really been working hard in the nurse's office. A credit to all of our nurses to really identify symptoms early on, provide test kits if families so choose, follow the protocols for any positive cases. So I'll keep you updated there. At this time, if Mr. Appicelli and Mr. French wouldn't mind coming up to help give some updates on where we are with the barn build. So I know that that was part of our notes that were shared out from our Facilities and Finance Subcommittee. But just as I was sharing some of the people and places that I've gone since our last meeting, Kevin, Jay, Sam, Brenda have been very busy to try to keep us on schedule. So I turn it over to the two of you. I know I was receiving messages at the very time the meeting was kicking off, so I think there are some updates even since our meeting kicked off.
Sure. So this coming Friday, we're scheduled to do the radar inspection of the grounds where the poles are going to go for the barn. We're receiving quotes as of today. We did another walkthrough, and to date we received 3 quotes thus far for the site work. So we need to act on that kind of quickly because we need to do call before you dig, which takes a couple days for them to come out first before we can even put a shovel in the ground to even remove the grass, if you will, so we can start doing the site work and prep for the barn. So hopefully we get that done tomorrow. That's the plan.
We've been getting a lot of information from the town in terms of we had to contact Uncas Health. They've given us the go-ahead on that. We have planning and zoning. We just got a zoning permit. Actually, just like a little while ago. I just emailed Andy on that. We're waiting on the official building permit, but that's, when you look at the list of things, there's all these like check marks for things that they've already given us. So like the building permit is next on there. You know, I really want to thank, you know, I hadn't filled out one of those building permits before, and I really needed someone to help me through that. And Jason Nosab was really, really helpful in helping me through that. We did get the liability insurance from the builder who's actually going to be here, so that's all all a part of that. So we've been checking a lot of things off, and they've been coming fast and furious all day today. So it was really nice.
So I just wanted to take a moment. I know that Kevin and Jay are up here, but to thank everybody who's been involved in this. This is another one of those things that when we heard that we had been awarded it and then knew we had like a month and a half to turn it around, we're kind of talking about it, and I could see everybody a little in disbelief, like, are we going to pull this off? And we're not there yet, but we're making progress and we're setting ourselves up for success. So this is going to be an exciting project for our school. Thank you.
Absolutely, thank you. Any questions, guys?
Questions?
No? Looking forward to it.
Oh, yeah. Us too. Kids really looking forward
Yeah.
to it. Yes.
So in our curriculum subcommittee meeting, I know that Rita, when she was doing her share out, mentioned what's going on at the state level in regards to the kindergarten to grade 3 core comprehensive reading curricula or programs. She did share some data that I had planned to share, but it's good to share with the full board. So there are general statutes. One that establishes that the Center for Literacy Research and Reading Success is part of the State Department of Education. And then from there, that task force team is out to review and approve at least 5 core programs that everyone has to choose from. They actually came with 6. We don't use any of the 6. And from a survey that was done for superintendents, there were only 12 of 122 who replied a few weeks back that are actually using any of the programs that are being put forth by this task force. So as you can imagine, superintendents, building leaders, teachers heard of this and are not pleased, because while this is a group of experts, and I'm not taking away anything from their abilities and their research that they put in, there doesn't seem to be much connection to what's happening in the schools currently, what our teachers are passionate about, what they feel are best practice, and this is somewhat of a overreach on the part of legislators to kind of push these programs on us. This would have been for next year. So in addition to the challenge to rally your teaching team and learn new material to best be able to deliver to your students, there's a budget implication that obviously our district is, we don't have extra funds, and I think a lot of people feel that way. So they did talk about waivers that were coming out, and there were different reasons in which you could apply for this waiver. So I am the signatory that had to complete this survey. And I went ahead on behalf of the board and asked for the 1-year extension because of the lack of resources and funding. Since then, there's been a lot of conversation about just being able to waive it, because you don't want to implement one of the choices that the state has put forth. Like I said, I already did the survey indicating that we would not implement until the year after, to at least buy us a year. I think we're living through some new programs this year, and I feel like Rita and the team of teachers that had volunteered their time and been a part of these committees where we piloted and did a very appropriate rollout and supported teachers through PD along the way. I wouldn't want to just jump right into something. So I think it is true that we have lack of resources and funding, but I also think it's true we need time. And as Rita said, it will be a standing agenda item at the curriculum subcommittee, because I would not doubt that by the time our November meeting comes along, there's going to be a lot of change. Questions with that one?
Go ahead, Nicole.
All right, so I'm just trying to wrap my mind around what is the purpose of having these 6 programs?
So I would venture to guess that they believe that if, after their research, that these programs are what is developmentally appropriate and what these kids need and would offer more consistency across the state, thus seeing better performance. There is a lot of research that talks about getting kids to be reading on grade level by grade 3. And that's been a focal area for many, many years. I guess they feel that these 6 programs are an answer to that challenging problem.
And what happens if a district does not do any of the 6? Are there repercussions?
I have not heard of any. I have not asked.
Brian, sorry.
The wisdom of this group, and to your point, Andy, I'm sure that they're all very well-respected folks in whatever field it is that they're in. But I really have a hard time choking down the stuff that, continually gets pushed by the state, onto local boards of education for that almost, is not even giving us a choice to participate. That just says, well, here, you got a choice of 6. Which one would you like? None, thanks. Appreciate the offer. I certainly hope that there's legal challenge to this, because it takes away, one size doesn't fit all, and we've found that over and over and over again. I don't think anybody would argue with the fact that we do want, learners at grade level, early, obviously the earlier the better, and proficient in reading, but whether mandating stuff to districts is the way to do that, I highly doubt.
Yeah, so that is where I'm hearing now this waiver process is kind of moving towards, is giving districts an opportunity to say what they are using and to demonstrate how that is benefiting their learners, along with data, student performance data, to show that kids are making growth and trending in the right direction. The other thing, besides things just being pushed on you, this would be pushed on us and not funded. So, depending on the program that we choose to go with, it could have a significant impact. It will have a significant impact on our elementary school budget and in turn, the district budget.
The other thing is, Brian, I haven't reached out yet to CABE, but it's been on my mind to reach out to CABE because we are not by any means alone. I think an overwhelming majority would be in the same situation that we are in, which is good, that we can hopefully stand together, and actually, make decisions that are in the best interest of our students, so.
Yeah, I'm just curious if you, Andy, or Rita could send us the names of those programs for anybody that's curious to look into it.
Is there any proof that these programs have a better performance record than the ones we're using?
Yeah, and Andy, if you send the memo to the board, you'll see the research that's been cited for these 6 programs. And it lists, it's Ed reports, but the Ed reports, yeah. And this committee, yeah, so you'll be able to see the resources and the websites that they cite.
Baseline science and reading is the push. Strong phonics in those programs. But some are like 2017, they're not, it was up to 8.
Dawn.
Along with that, or whoever is interested in looking into them, can you also say what we're already using so that they are aware of what we are already using?
Any other questions? Like I said, I think this is changing by the day, so I'm sure we'll have updated information at the next curriculum meeting. Okay.
All right, at this time, we'll move to our data presentation. So if the administrative team would not mind kind of swinging up this way a little bit so that when it's your slide, you can present to the board. I know there's no perfect way for the audience to see what we got going on and the board, but if you need to reposition yourself a little bit for this. So I am including these slides in my superintendent update that I plan to send tomorrow, and it will also be on our webpage. All right. There we go. Now they're all ready. So before we get going with this, I think I'd be remiss if I didn't take more time to celebrate what we did last year as a team. And when I say as a team, I'm talking about our teachers, our paraeducators, our students, and our families. I think, when we were at this time last year, seeing some of the lofty goals we set, we really put ourselves out there and really challenged our staff and our students to get our students accelerating, not just catching up for anything that they may have lost during some of those COVID years. And I was very proud of how we responded as a district, really achieving at high levels. I know that towards the end of the presentation, we're going to get into some more of these data highlights and the charts that celebrate last year's performance. But this year, we're going to continue to work in the same cohesive manner that we did last year, having a small number of goals that are connected right from our Board of Education goals into the strategic plan district level goals, and into each of our buildings, really trying to use last year's success as momentum for this year. As a reminder for you all, here is one of our Board of Education goals, which focuses on elevating the academic standards for all students and educators. I think you'll see that as we go along. There are things we're expecting and looking for our students to do, but there's also a sizable amount of attention paid to making sure we're all being lifelong learners and growing our skill set to have the best possible education experience here in Lebanon. So as we did last year, we took each of our goals and we tied it right to the strategic plan, as well as the NIAS standards for accreditation. You know, that's something I think that is more focused towards the high school, but we want to make sure that we're staying in alignment with those, because our accreditation opportunity will be coming up before we know it, and we want to be able to show that committee who comes out that we've been doing this all along. And I think it's just best practice. You know, the things that are there tie really nicely into what we want to do anyway, and really serve as a good opportunity to provide us with additional direction. So here's our first goal, and I really feel like this is where it all starts, right? It's all about relationships, and in this close-knit community that we have an opportunity really to demonstrate how each child is known, valued, and connected. So this is our first goal here, and you know, as we look into these action steps, we're talking about having high expectations for all our learners, and I think last year was proof that when we put these high expectations out there, they rise to meet those. The second one here about having a plan and services in place to support social emotional needs of students. I think this is us showing we care about the whole child and are here to support them. And then the last one is this adult mentorship. And as I said at the beginning, it's all about relationships and connections, and I think as we perform well here, it serves as a catalyst to all of our other goals. So at this point, I'll turn it over to Rita, who will talk a little bit about District Goal 1. Dawn's also going to chime in. I want to thank Rita for using this new exciting interactive platform for your viewing pleasure tonight. And then after Rita and Dawn talk, we'll go right into each of the buildings and we'll follow that format through the 4 goals. Thanks, Rita.
Thanks, Andy. So yes, first of all, thank you to the administration and to Andy. Certainly this was a collaborative effort, and as well as the coaches that came to attend and share some slides as well, specific to their building. So we're going to have our district goals, and then after that, each administrator will speak of their goals unique to their building. Because although we have an overall arching goal, of course, you know, if you have kids across all 3 schools, it can look a little bit different based on their student needs. So at first, we're going to have Dawn also share a little bit more about district goal in the special education realm.
Well, district-wise, we're in the process of implementing DESA, which is our new social emotional screener. And the teachers will answer 8 strength-based questions about students. At the elementary school and middle school, it will be homeroom teachers. And at the high school, we're looking at the pause teacher doing that. And the data will be immediate. It will show students' strengths and social emotional learning, and then also their weaknesses, so that we can do tiered interventions. And our first rating period will start October 24th.
All right. With that, we'll go right into LES.
So LES will take the data and we will administer it 3 times per year, and we'll use the data to review at several different levels. The teachers will have the data immediately to them, so they'll be able to look across the board to see if there's any ways that they can adjust Tier 1 practices or practices within their classroom. For example, if the teachers wanted to focus on organizational strategies or community building. And then we'll also look at the data to determine intervention groups with our school psychologist, our social worker, as needed. And we'll monitor that progress in a grid, a spreadsheet of how students are doing and tracking that. We'll also use our existing student support team to review the DESA data. And again, this will be done 3 times per year.
So for the middle school, we have 3 components that tie in directly with the district goal 1, which I'll call the SEL goal out of the 4 goals. So the 3 components at the middle school are, the first is a student success plan, but those it's a plan that starts in the middle school and carries over into the high school. So at the middle school, what happens is students set academic goals, growth goals at the beginning of the year, and then it's tracked with a teacher that's assigned to each group of students in our connections block. So that's where we facilitate the planning of the student goals. Along with that, as part of the middle school requirement, and I believe this is legislated now too with student success plans. Another piece would be to have a career exploration, which we do in 7th grade, and then it's followed up on with the career fair in 8th grade. The idea is to be able to look at students' interests and sort of help them along a path to make the right choices when they're in high school, and it also helps the counselors to make sure students take the right courses and end up where they want to be, whether it be college or in the workforce. So again, this is a program that carries through the 2 buildings. Years ago, we had software that ran this, but for whatever reason, the software didn't go from middle school to high school. So right now, I'm currently working with my counselor, where we're making our own homegrown program using the Google Drive process, and every student already now has a folder at the middle school that will collect work samples or collect their career interest surveys, their job shadow experience, etc., and then it'll follow to Lyman so that the Lyman counselors and teachers will have access to those Google Drives. The second component is the same as what Jess just said regarding the DESA, that's a district-wide process that we're going to be doing. So the middle school will also be administering the DESA and then having interventions related to the results from the DESA. And the third component for our SEL goal is to start using the Choose Love program that you've heard about from Rita already, and we will be doing that in our connections block, which meets once a week. We have lessons that our school PBIS team and climate team worked on together to facilitate the implementation of Choose Love, and there's different classes and different lessons that Choose Love provides that we use each week.
So we are also using the Choose Love program. We implement this every Monday, and we do have a schedule. Erica and I worked very much together to align those dates, so we're all kind of within the same unit. And so far, we've had positive responses to that, but you know, as we move through the units, we're also trying to make the units conversations that all teachers or support staff are having. So the first unit is courage. So we're trying to really incorporate that into the conversations that we have with students that we have, that our counselors have. So it's kind of like a school-wide topic. And then we are also administering the DESA 3 times a year, and our SAM team will meet to review those results as well and provide those tiered interventions. And we do have a data tracking form that we use for SRBI that we are going to very likely use for that. We just may have to adjust it a little bit to track the progress as well. And our SAM team currently meets once per quarter, although we have increased that at times if we have different situations where we feel like we need to meet more frequently.
Thank you. So I hope the board is seeing a very intentional repetitiveness in the goal across the buildings. You know, where we really worked hard as a team to be aligned and make sure that we have this continuity. And I think, you know, not only are we seeing great results in that given year, but I think you're going to see things year over year as kids have these kind of shared experiences and that terminology that's the same across the district. So District Goal 2, moving more towards the instructional practices that are designed for our learners. Last year was a heavy lift, but something the team should be proud of and is reaping the benefits of now as we're talking about providing some of these interventions on the behavioral side of things. There was a lot of work done to improve our multi-tiered system of supports for the academics, make sure we're giving interventions for kids who need it across all different areas. And there was a heavy emphasis on the diagnostic or the summative assessments. This year we're getting a little bit more into formative assessments or those ongoing assessments, really try to make sure that we're adjusting our instruction to what we're seeing with our learners on more of a day-to-day basis instead of waiting until the diagnostic or those summative opportunities. And along with that, we're taking a critical look at some of the interventions that we're using within the classroom. So we shouldn't, as teachers, just think MTSS means intervention happens when kids get pulled out of my room. We're on that tier 1 level, making adjustments using our formative assessment data to be able to provide interventions within the classroom.
And even in our intervention times, we're doing more of a push-in model, a lot more than pulling kids out. So that they're part of that classroom still, and that they're embedded and still listening to the tier 1 plus getting them more specialized. And we're doing it, of course, we implemented an actual class, there's a math tutor and Erica is an instructional coach at the middle school, at the high school. We also have a tutor who helps them across the areas. And there's a team in all 3 buildings that meet, look at the students' scores, analyze it, determine what kids really need those supports, which we call the tier 2 in particular, and address it both in math, ELA, and social emotional needs. So you'll see a counselor not just work with kids that are identified, right? You're going to have kids work with different groups. So it's more of an enmeshed experience, but it is very specific to the kids' needs. So now we'll jump into each little building as well.
So LES will be targeting to have formative assessments for 2 for each content area. So we'll take a closer look at that and provide any type of professional learning our teachers may need to look at some of those assessments, and if they need more work on learning more about running records and so forth, we can provide that information during our team meetings. We'll also be continuing with MTS days this year, so 6 to 8 week cycles where we come together as a team and review intervention data and how students are doing, both academically and social emotionally, and adjust our tiered interventions. We saw great progress with our students last year, where our tier 3 groups decreased and students went down to tier 2 groups, and that's the movement that we want to see. And then less referrals to that student support team. So that's the movement that we hope to continue to see this year.
So for the middle school, a preface to this is that the middle school has a lot of assessments. Every grade is assessed in SBAC. Grades 5 and 8 are assessed through NGSS. Every grade does iReady. So we have a wealth of data that we can refer to help guide us. And a term that I coined was that it's a very targeted triad. And what I mean by that is we have curriculum, data and instruction, and observations. Those 3 components are critical for this to really come to fruition. And what's nice is the state also provides quite a bit of information. So you'll see this in this 2-pronged approach here. The first talks about targeting individual instruction interventions for individual students, and the second component is talking about grade level. And the reason why I did it that way is the state, again, provides so much data that, as an example, you could have a grade level that really rocked it out of the park, I'll say 8th grade math. But when I look at the individual claims, because the state provides information on all the subtopics within your grade level, I can tell you that, I'll just throw out some examples. Grade 8 SBAC had a weakness in determining central idea in language arts. Grade 5 had a weakness in the claim area, grade 6 had a weakness in the claim area of summarizing, describing distributions and problem solving and modeling. So using those 2 examples, what's nice is through the teacher eval process, through observations, through interventions, you can really get down to possibly what is it that's causing a particular student or a particular grade level to maybe not meet proficiency or not hit a certain band within the state bands of proficiency. And so we have a great amount of data to use, and it really helps us to determine the best way to intervene.
So we're looking over a lot of data in our PLCs, and trying to figure out, based on last year where our students might have struggled, and trying to target those areas. Again, understanding that it's a different, it is a different group of kids. We are talking with our teachers about how they can incorporate SAT-like things into a warm-up, so that they can start practicing some of those, some of those questions and those type of tasks. And we're trying to get our students, to make an increase. Again, that may not seem like much, but again, that's 10 points on the, on one of those tests, the SATs. So that, like I said, that percentage doesn't seem like much, but it does make a difference. For the ELA, the evidence-based reading and writing, that 480 is the target for the state. It's 520 for math. So we're trying to get our students little by little make some of those incremental gains. And then we're still using our supported study hall where we have students that are in need. We put out a call to all the teachers. Progress reports just came out. Do you see some kids that are struggling? Let's make some referrals. So prior to progress reports coming out, we didn't have a lot of referrals. We had a faculty meeting today, and the people that were part of our SRBI group, they were talking about, they thanked the group for putting in all these referrals for kids who happen to be, needing some assistance. So every referral gets a response. Whether the student gets actually moved into that supported study hall, gets put on some kind of a watch, and then we'll continue to monitor. So everyone's going to be involved in that. And last year we did have a lot of success where kids were put into the supported study hall. We're getting a lot of their work done, and then they ended up getting moved out. So we're going to continue to use that. We're going to continue to target those kids who need the most help.
So as I said at the beginning of our presentation, you're going to see this opportunity for our students to demonstrate their growth and opportunity for our adult learners to demonstrate their growth. So this is part of the building of capacity of all of our learners with a focus more on the adults here, really focusing on teacher collaboration and efficacy. Studies show that the #1 predictor of student success is teacher effectiveness. And we talked about that at our convocation, welcoming back all of our staff, really tried to drive home a message to them that what they do matter. And that together, we're all in this, and we really can work together to grow our skills, learning from each other, kind of getting outside our comfort zone, doing new learning, new initiatives, anything we can to do the best for our learners. So there's going to be from each of the buildings opportunities that they're putting into place for formal collaboration, but we're also taking time to try to give opportunities that may seem a little bit more informal, but all of this is focused on building skills and knowledge of our teachers, so in turn we can give the best to our learners.
Yes, our feedback, the feedback piece is critical at the middle school. I had heard they never had an opportunity to work together as teams. We've had consultants come in. We've had, in the past, we've had many in-house presenters. This past year, we've tried to get some outside people to come in and share their knowledge. And it's been really effective. So in the past, a lot of professional development was kind of time just for them to get things done. And as Andy mentioned, there's a lot of newness and initiatives, and if we don't provide the background knowledge or the, even a consultant sharing their experiences from other districts, it can be hard to implement those pieces. So that's really the focus of our professional development, is to support the teachers in that sort of new process.
So at LES, we have, or across the district, we have the teachers have their individual goal through Eval. We have our district goals, we have our school goals. And then we're also going to have a grade level team goal too. So, for example, kindergarten shared that they will make a goal for their individual team that they'll be focusing on family engagement this year. Second grade is talking a little bit more about their community outreach goal. So we will continue on with our team goals too. And then LES teams will also engage in peer observations. We know a lot of empirical evidence about peer observation and the effectiveness of it and how realistic and real life it seems and applicable to teachers. So we'll continue on with peer observations this school year.
At the middle school, we've made some great gains with PD and with collaboration. One way that we started that last year was we changed our schedule, and Rita just alluded to that, where on Fridays, instead of it being all study halls, we have PLCs, so professional learning communities. So all of our math teachers can meet, all of our LA teachers can meet, etc. And it's on a rotating schedule on Fridays. So that's been one way we've really been able to help the teams have time together. Another thing that I started last year that was amazing actually is, you know, we have a lot of subject matter experts, is what I would call them, in the building, whether it be your math teacher, your reading teacher, even the PE teachers, all have a particular expertise. So last year, what I asked people or voluntold them to do was each month we had different topics that were presented at our faculty meetings, and we really had some amazing basically workshops during our faculty meeting time that were presented by all of these various subject matter experts. It's something that went really well, so it's something that we'll continue with. Our meeting this week is actually going to be provided by our counseling and social workers, so that's the first topic for this year. Let's see. Then we have our PLCs during the Fridays, and then we also have team goals similar to what Jess had mentioned, and interestingly enough, I got the first description of a team goal from grade 6 right after the Choose Love workshop. They were really stricken by some of the components during the PD on Friday, and so they approached me about doing a team goal related to some of the facets of the Choose Love program. So a lot of great things happening.
So at Lyman, as you know, we did redesign our senior project to create 3 additional pathways. So this year will be a continuation of that work, and it will be creating a portfolio piece for our senior project. So this will take place in grades 9 through 11, and will tie in nicely with the folders and things that Rob had already mentioned that they are creating at the middle school. So the focus for this part will be on the pillars as well. 2 years ago, I think over a year ago, we did what we called like a walkthrough of our task to see what already aligned with the pillars, and most, if not all of the pieces we are already doing already do that. So where our focus really is going to be on this year is creating reflection questions that relate to the tasks and the pillars. And the portfolio we've already discussed will be digital. And all of these things will be up into the senior project and will help them to better choose their pathway when they get to the end of their junior year. So when we were building the senior project, it did take us a full year. We also implemented it within that year. This is the actual full year where all the students had the choice to go the routes that they wanted to go. So we're looking forward to diving into this next piece of work. And then we also have the PLCs, which meet 2 to 3 times a week, depending upon the period. And this year, our main focus is Choose Love and preparing those lessons and making sure that they're reviewing the videos and things like that before they're actually presenting them. And then our PLC planning committee meets along with us, and we plan topics for them. We also just told them that they are going to do their training for DESA, so it's been an invaluable time for them to collaborate and also, dive into these things things like choose love and feel more comfortable.
So the theme for this year has been and will continue to be, we're all in this together. And to that end, Goal 4 targets the fostering of partnerships with students, families, and the community. The part here that I like the most is in the second action step where it talks about specifically reaching out. I think this is an area that Lebanon has always done really well. Our communication is great, but I think that the power of reaching out to a parent to talk specifically to them about their child at an unscheduled time, that's not on parent conferences, that's not at open house. And again, going back to our close-knit community, we have the ability to do that and to make those connections. And I think it can be extremely motivational for the kids. It can, change their course of their year. And I'm excited to hear what the schools are going to be doing.
So LES will continue to work with PTA, very active PTA, hardworking, and got a lot of wonderful family engagement activities. We'll continue to work with them, and this allows families to get into the building and have those celebrations with their children. And also, we are going to initiate positive parent communication with 2 communications per family at each trimester too. So really talking about the effectiveness of positive communication, laying down that foundation for families at the beginning of the school year and throughout.
The middle school also does a lot of work with our PTA. We've got some great events coming up with our fall Halloween festival. This goal also ties in directly with our teacher Eval stakeholder feedback goal. So with that, teachers are required to make contacts to parents quarterly. We have 10 contacts, and they actually, save examples of information that they sent home to parents. We also have our Panther Pride system, which is a great way for parents to find out something good that their student did at school. Teachers hand a pride card to a student, and then the student brings it to the office and we collect them, and that then triggers us to be able to take that card and send it home to the parents, be able to say, look what a great thing that your student did. So we have multiple ways that we're trying to communicate with parents and increase communication, increase school event like arts nights and band events, music events, etc., and hopefully a drama production in the spring.
So, a couple of things on ours. We talked about the communication through the newsletter and Facebook and Instagram. A great example of using Instagram just happened, I want to say today. We put something out on Instagram saying that homecoming is coming up. If you want to bring a guest, you have to have a guest form. And you should see all the kids that came to the office to pick up a guest form. Christy had to make more copies and then put off all these forms right on the front because so many the kids paid attention to that. So I thought that was just, it's, again, it targets certain groups. Instagram is a great one to target kids. Facebook is a great one to target,
Be careful.
Okay? It's a great way to target that. And, even talking about that, we put out, our open house that I know that we talked about last year, but putting that out on Facebook and even, sharing that with some of the contacts, I had a lot of replies back that said, you know what, that's a great idea. I wish our school did that. And we actually had, when we were out today with doing some recruiting, a principal came over and he goes, hey, I heard about your open house. He goes, we want to do that too. There's a principal at another high school. So it's just getting that message out there. You never know who it's going to reach. We reached somebody at another high school that wants to copy us. So I thought that was really cool. We still do we're doing the 10 contacts per quarter, and teachers have to track that. They have to keep a log of who they contacted, what was the reason why, and we always encourage, always encourage, positive, say something nice about, the students. you're going to have to reach out to them if they're struggling, if something's not going right, but also make sure that you touch on the positive.
Thank you. So I think at this point, we'll probably switch seats, invite Ms. Strong and Mrs. DeLucia up to join us. I know that at the beginning of the presentation, I went back to say how proud I was of our students, of our teaching team, of our paraeducators, of our families, and I know that Rita had previously shared this with the subcommittee, and we were so pleased to report out that we were back again. It's never a bad thing to continue to celebrate, so I'll let Rita take it from here.
Yes, so we did discuss at the curriculum subcommittee, and we had, if you remember, this was the packet I had shared. I have it with you guys too. I shared it with you. This is way more in detail than I'm just going to briefly share with you here because we've already been talking for a little bit here. I'm just highlighting a couple things, but I really think it's important if you have time to delve a little deeper. You can see across the cohort, like the same group of kids, how they've done across, breaks it down and goes all the way back to 2015. So what I'm highlighting here is what this state really emphasized this year, which was how did kids do from prior to the pandemic to now. Of course, they were not assessed the year of the pandemic. Last year, their scores not good across the state, right? So they wanted to see, well, what about before the pandemic? Let's not use last year. Let's compare to 2018 and to now. And so good news about Lebanon is that across all the grades, our percent of students in math were above the state average. So here is us in red, right? These are all the grades across. This is blue, the state, and you can see that we did better in all the grades compared to the state in math. Math is, oops.
Sorry, Rita.
That's okay. All right, that's cute. I'm going faster.
All right.
Math was not good across the state. That's why we have Ready Math, where it's like, a program. But you can see there are certain grades that actually did better. You can see the numbers specifically out here, but you can see fifth grade in particular, 74%, and prior they had 68. That's just one grade, but you can see multiple grades did that, which is amazing. Because that is not what happened. You can see across from 2018, the state average went down. Okay, move.
If I could just chiming in, because there's a lot of variables, right? And no one's going to be able to point a finger at exactly what happened. But I think it's more than coincidental that we set some pretty aggressive targets. We worked really closely as a team to go after those targets. We brought on some consultants, some different professional development opportunities. We had some new initiatives, some different programs. We had all this kind of going at once, and to see the performance of our students increase and respond along with those changes was a really positive thing.
And this was at or above. The next slide is really what I like to focus on. This takes into consideration all of our students, because whether you were a level 1 or a level 2, right, in SBAC, that to me doesn't matter, but did they improve over the course of the years? Can we get them to even just a little bit more higher than they did the previous grade? And again, you can see our growth from this again is the same thing. Red is us. Blue is the state average, and you can see our growth rates for the most part were better in as compared to the pre-pandemic, as compared to the state averages. And then the same with ELA is the same that we did in math. So across the grade levels, we did better in the state after the pandemic. And in some, right, some are similar and some went up, which again is much to celebrate in the ELA. And same with growth. You can see certain grades showed more growth. This, of course, is the two state averages is blue, turquoise is us. I think there was one in particular I circled, like grade 8, you can see too. their growth, 42.2. You have a high growth in 5th grade. And again, that's taking into consideration all of your students, right? And that's what we're here for. NGSS, which is our science assessment, it is only assessed in grades 5, 8, and 11, but it does have a buildup of learning through the earlier years. So grade 5 did the best they've ever had. And then what I wanted to show you here is you'll see, like, this is when the test had started, and then 2020, these are multiple years, so this is different than the previous graphs. And I need to show this because it was in every year and some years not. The year of the pandemic it was not. In grade 11, there was one year, it started later. So that's why there's only 3 here. And again, compared to the state averages, which is this blue, you can see visually where we fell. And in fact, in this, I think it's in this one, yes, in this highlights is the biggest takeaways of this data. So I wanted to highlight again that compared from the from the pre-pandemic to now, right, we accelerated in ELA at a 0.6% rate compared to the state, 5.1% in math, 3.8% in science, and in fact, the middle school was second in the New London County for ELA and science, and third for math performance. The middle school showed the most growth compared to other schools in the New London County. So that's very exciting. And those are, you can actually see in this packet kind of where we fell, like where all the other little dots are. It's pretty neat. Did I go over everything I wanted? I think. Yep. Yes, that's the cue. But there's a lot of information there. Please, if you want to break it down a little bit further, I'd be happy to.
So this is our recent fall data for the elementary school using iReady. So iReady, we have Ready Math, but then we also have the iReady Diagnostic, which has taken the place of our former NWEA diagnostic. So it's an adaptive assessment. Our ELA measures phonemic awareness, phonics, high frequency words, comprehension of literature, comprehension of nonfiction text, and then the math measures numbers and operations, algebra and algebraic thinking, measurement and geometry. So the data here is in our standard view, which this is a view that we will show you each time that we meet throughout the year, so fall, winter, and spring. If you do look at the data in the beginning of the year view, so if you go on to iReady, you can switch levels, a 3-level view, a 5-level view. The 3-level view beginning of the year kind of tells you like where are your students considering it's the beginning of the year and they haven't had that new learning. So our numbers are much different. So for example, in 1st grade, 95% of our students would be at or above grade level at the beginning of the year view. But to make sure that we're following our goal number 1 for our district and having those high expectations, we want to make sure we're looking at that standard view and setting goals based on where they need to be by the end of the year. So this is our information. You can see in each grade how many students are at or above grade level on this one assessment. So we take into account multiple assessments. We haven't given other diagnostics or other benchmark assessments yet, but you'll see that later in the year. One thing to point out is in kindergarten, we do not give the iReady diagnostic until January. So come mid-year, you'll see that just because they're new learners, they're still learning how to just be students, so it's not really developmentally appropriate to give that to them.
And so for LMS, as you can see in terms of the school as a whole, our learners are already at a pretty good percentage at the beginning of the year, with 42% at or above grade level in ELA and 33% in math. So to know that that's where we're starting off, we have a ways to go and we'll get there, especially with our new and rigorous curricula. Specifically in ELA, when we came last year to show you these numbers, all grades are higher and starting at a higher percentage of at or above grade level. And so that's something to really be proud of and to know that we're starting in a very, very good place. Looking at math specifically, iReady actually just came out with a state of student learning report to talk about national norms and where students are at and kind of where they're seeing, trends in the data. And one thing they said, and I know we spoke at at the Board of Ed, I believe last year, was that there is a struggle in math post-pandemic. And so the norms align exactly with what we're seeing here, where we notice after grade 5 and 6, we're seeing kind of a bit of a dip in grades 7 and 8. So while it is common, we know that we are starting this great iReady math curriculum this year. Teachers are very excited, the students are really engaged, and it's very student-centered. So we expect for that, as well as our ELA scores, to go up, and we're gonna have those high expectations, like Stephanie said, and get there. We're eager.
Got some SAT.
Is that me?
Yes. We could not get, just to preface, NWA was not done yet. That's the assessment we still use at Lyman. We are switching. We're going to have an assessment conversation with our department, but they are very interested in switching to iReady also for 9th and 10th. It would be the only 2 grade levels we'll assess for a diagnostic. So we will have the NWA data for the curriculum subcommittee meeting in November. But we do have SAT.
All right.
Yeah.
So I do want to point out, 2021, okay, that was a pencil and paper test. 2022, okay, that was the one that was done on the computer. That was completely different from what kids have taken in the past. And it was also completely different from the PSAT that they took. So I just want people to understand. So, you know, these kids who are now our seniors, when they were juniors, they took a paper and pencil PSAT, practice for the SAT, and then they took a completely different SAT. So I just wanted to point that out. But the one thing that I did want to point out is take a look at where they were when they took the PSAT, even though it was a different kind of format and setup. Look at the gains that they made for that. So they took this in October, and then in April on the SAT day, they made some good gains in there. So, and you know, you can see those the changes that, you know, in terms of their growth. So, and again, remember, that's the average. You know, that's a pretty significant average when that jumps up that much. So the kids work really hard, and you know, the teachers worked really hard to get them there. So that's something I really wanted to point out. And again, so come tomorrow, the PSAT is also going to be pencil and paper.
Yeah. And finally, thank you, Jay.
Yep.
Finally, we had a lot to celebrate, right? But there's always areas that you saw. There's some data that we could certainly target and want to and continue to grow. And so these are just a few of our steps that we were going to look a little bit more closely this year and really focus on in our ELA and math in grades 3 and 4, in particular our math implementation, supporting the teachers. Of course, you saw professional development. We had a consultant come from iReady. We also have someone from EastCon who comes twice a month to work with teachers, whether that's to co-teach or to teach a lesson or to observe and give feedback. In particular, our grade 6 mathematics, that is when the standards, as Erica mentioned, we're noticing a decline in those grade levels. That's nationally. Just note that grade 6 math standards significantly changed from K through 5. Significant. So we're looking, the math teacher is working closely with our EastCon at some of those standards and seeing, and of course iReady is aligned with SBAC and assessment, so we're hoping to see that sort of help improve those scores. And then of course, we mentioned in depth at our curriculum subcommittee about how we're going to address our grade 11 science scores, our NGSS, and that includes, again, I've met with the science department, we're changing how the test is being assessed or aligning their units. And then finally, as we address all of our learners, we are continuing to always reflect on our MTSS, our small group interventions. We also provide professional learning for our tutors who are non-certified staff to make sure they have all the resources and the knowledge base to work with those students. And that's it.
So, yeah, thank you, everybody. I'm, having a proud moment again. It's great to see the work of the team over the summer months and into the early year, and how we've had ongoing conversations to get to a point where we can spend almost an hour talking about the exciting things that are happening in our schools, celebrating our past performances, focusing on areas of continued growth, and really putting together what we feel are some pretty robust goals that will help us have another great year. So, thank you to all the team members who presented tonight. I know it's a long day, and to be able to come and give that effort and attention means a lot. And thank you to the board. I know that you've expressed that you appreciate hearing things like that. Thank you for the time to be able to bring our hard work to the forefront, celebrate what the students and teachers are doing in the classrooms, but also really provide you with a lot of information that you should see play out over the course of the year.
Thank you. I think we do need an applause for that. That was awesome. And I think, yes, it took a while, but I think it's time very well spent. I think Andy and the board, we have sort of tried to work together to create some goals for the district, and then, Andy, you kind of take those and run with them with the team of admin that we have, all being kind of in sync for a good majority of the year, as in sync as you could be for a district. So I think it speaks volumes, and that's the continuity, I think, will pay out in the end. So thank you, everybody. Does anybody else have anything they want to say?
I'm just really impressed with the SBAC scores. Going above the state levels was very impressive to see. And it brings me back to the 6 reading programs. If we showed them the data, why would you want to change this? That's just my takeaway from that.
We're going to share that with Cape. Any other comments or questions? All right. Thank you all. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, that brings us to our facilities report.
So in September on SIP, first line item, replace exhaustion, proper ventilation. We replaced 2 at the high school. I have not received the invoices yet, they're about $3,500. District doors and hardware. We actually did do this work this past week, LES Kids, Lyman loading dock in the rear of the school here. We've had a swipe card and box readers. I'm going to reach back out to them because they left a hole in a door over here, and they put a door stop on the ground. It's going to fail in the wintertime, so I'm going to have to come back. They're going to have to come back. I'm not going to sign off on those invoices as of yet. Electrical upgrade. I added power to the light poles at the elementary school, a light pole at the elementary school, and 1 light pole at Lyman to install cameras. As in the safety and security meeting, we were looking at parking lot cameras and possibly driveway cameras. So we installed 2 cameras at the elementary school, 1 facing the parking lot and 1 coming up the driveway for better visibility this past week. Line striping and crack sealing is done. We're just waiting for that actually to be sent for final invoice. We should be good there. At the very bottom of the list, the electrical and the press box, that is complete. I have not received an invoice as of yet.
And if I could jump in just to remind the board, when we had our Finance and Facilities Subcommittee meeting, I believe it was back in September, we reprioritized this list and really focused on trying to get numbers 1 through 5 going. So it's great to hear, the progress that we're making there.
Any questions?
Yep. Where are we with the LES gym floor?
I have not received confirmation of when anybody coming out as of right now to this date.
Okay.
I reached out to Baleen Floor and the original contractor. O'Keefe Building Maintenance has not come back, and they've stopped emailing me, so I'll reach out to them again.
And I have one more question. Where are we with the LMS scissor lift?
Yeah, I was going to ask that too.
The LMS scissor lift, it cost us $1,835 to rent.
I thought it was $1,300.
No, it's $1,800. I have an invoice. Actually, I have an invoice now. I was thinking it was $1,300.
Okay.
I've reached out to 2 vendors. I've gotten nothing back. And I'm going to reach out again with Val. We're going to get with DAS, the state of Connecticut, to see if it's something they can help us with.
Can I just ask a clarifying question? The $1,835, that's for one rental, and how long is that rental?
That's for one day. I called on the town's behalf last year, they wanted $3,000 for a day. I was beside myself.
And I thought we talked about a couple months ago getting a couple different quotes. You were going to get an invoice, and then I thought we were going to get a couple different...
Right, I'm working on trying to get quotes. I reached out to JLG and, I'm trying to think of the other vendor. They have not gotten back to me.
Okay.
They have not gotten back to me with quotes. It's been a week since I put them out there. So.
Okay.
Still, they haven't gotten back to me.
At the facility subcommittee, when we were sitting there earlier, I had mentioned maybe to reach out to DAS and see if pulling from the state's website, approved vendors might have a better chance of getting
that's
their
okay.
request. So.
Okay.
So we're going in a different direction.
Okay. Any other questions for facilities?
Thanks, Kev.
Thank you.
My non-lapsing? Val, I
Yes.
see your non-lapsing update. The town increased down from surplus, just as a note.
Okay, and that was the surplus from 2021 and also from 21-22.
Correct.
Okay. Questions on that, non-lapsing? Okay, thanks, Kevin. All right, finance report.
Maybe a little more.
Thanks.
Less paper, so I'm gonna bring my laptop. Instead of printing all my. Hello, everybody.
Eval.
So, this is September, I would call it the first quarter, but really, things are just kind of kicking up. We were able to get our, this reflects the first month that we paid everybody in the district, so the teachers are on, the IAs are on, and 12-month employees are paid. We were also able to pay the big transportation invoice for M&J, and in that, we were able to include 1% discount, which was about just over $9,000. So we were able to take advantage of that. Anybody have any questions about any specific line items?
Questions, anybody?
Val, when you put things in parentheses, that means it's in the negative?
Yeah, well, so are you looking at?
Pupil transportation.
Sure, so you are reading that correctly. That budget as a whole is over, and one of the big drivers is our special education and home-based transportation students.
Gotcha.
So Dawn and I have been working closely to kind of project out where we'll be at the end of the year. Those numbers will be kind of continuously changing, but they will also be changing our excess costs as well. So as we have more expenses, we'll be able to get more reimbursement from the state for the excess cost students.
And this is one of those examples of the ongoing communication with the Board of Finance. I've already had conversation with them to let them know how our student population has shifted so that they are aware of where we are now. But we both agree to do anything to request funds from non-lapsing at this point. And the target is always moving in special education, so we're just kind of keeping them up to speed. And Val, like she said, is working with Dawn and myself to, make sure at least we know where we are and we can continue to provide that clear communication.
Do you normally pay for transportation fuel at the end of the year?
It comes quarterly from the town. The town bills us.
Okay.
You'll kind of see 4 changes in that budget.
Okay.
Any other questions on the finance report for 22-23? Okay.
Then we have the trial balance there for our other capital accounts related to the top line is asbestos. Then we have technology. So there were some purchases for the staff and student device refresh plans.
and then athletics capital as well.
The phones, Val, the BOE?
The Verizon Wireless 2 BOE phones for 1,900. Is it just cell phones that got replaced?
Yeah, I think so. You can actually ask Josh. When we paid Verizon for the cell phones, they were new phones. I think they were, I don't know when they're for, but.
That was like, I think, 3.
Okay. 3 new phones, yeah.
Thanks.
Not much activity there, but.
What's the phones and their service? Their plan, or just the phones themselves?
We pay the phones out, right, because we use capital money with it. We don't do the monthly $25 a month. We just
actual hardware.
It's the same price either way, but with capital, it's tough to do the monthly cost of it.
Any other questions on that?
Here's a quick question. It's always bothered me that we buy Chromebooks in bulk, but they're still over $200 a piece. Isn't there, I mean, I can buy a Chromebook for under $200 if I buy one, but when we're buying in bulk, why don't we get a good deal?
We go out to bid on every single Chromebook we buy unless it's under that 7,500 threshold where I do go out for at least three bids on those. They're always around the same amount. We buy Hewlett Packard and I mean, that's what it cost. We actually got a great deal last time because they were the G8s, which were going out of production, but their end of life was still 2026, which I thought, or 2026. So I thought it was a great buy. They were 218, I think it was 221, around 220, which is one of the best prices we've gotten. I mean, usually it's around 250.
Is that just the device? It's not even the software, right?
There really is no software. There's the management part of it, which is, well, the Google license, which is, it's $34 with anybody you buy it from.
I have a question. Jack, do you ever get any money back for broken Chromebooks, or what do you do with the broken Chromebooks that don't work anymore?
We use a lot of them for parts. I mean, we use the screens for replacement in our self-insurance. But, I mean, by the time we get rid of them, unfortunately, we still have some from that, from when you were here, when we bought the 790, when we went to one-to-one, we still have some of those around. I'm trying to get around to replacing them. Last year, we did get a grant for $70,000. Well, it wasn't a grant, Emergency Connectivity Fund, which was based off of COVID and all that. We did get $70,000 to purchase 300 of them to replace those G4s. So, I mean, that was a great plan that we were able to take advantage of.
So for the most part, you keep all the broken equipment, you never send it out?
No, at some point, they do have an end of life. Google will not, just like an iPhone, they will not update them and they become useless. That's back. You can't do testing unless you're at a certain version. And I mean, you probably had an iPhone that wouldn't run a certain app because you don't have that iOS version. It's the same thing with Chromebooks. Unfortunately, those G4s went end of update last year. So they're already on like a year where they're not updating the Chrome OS on them. And at that point, they become worthless.
Yep.
Okay. Go ahead. Anybody have any other questions on that? No. Okay, 23-24 budget.
So the 23-24 budget is just beginning. We have some of our budget documents due back from building principals this week. So Andy and I will meet again with the building principals, and then we've done a good job of looking at the calendar this year and making sure that we can hit some serious target dates so that we can have everything ready for the board and plenty of time for decisions and discussions.
Thanks, Val.
No problem.
All right. Excited about moving into that process again. All right, that brings us to our action items. Action item number 1, act on the letter of resignation.
Motion to act on letter of resignation with regret.
Second.
Motion to approve the letter of resignation from Nicole, seconded by John. Any discussion? All those in favor, please raise your hand. And that passes unanimously. Action item number 2, we have act on the second reading of policy 5028, high school graduation requirements.
I move we adopt that policy.
Second.
Motion by Maureen, seconded by Nicole. Any discussion? All those in favor, please raise your hand. And that also passes unanimously. Action item number 3, act on the snow and ice control contract renewal.
Motion to award Pondview with snow and ice control contract renewal for the 2022-23 school year.
Second.
Motion by Nicole, seconded by John. Discussion. Any discussion? Okay, all those in favor, please raise your hand. And that passes unanimously. Okay, at this time, there is an anticipated executive session on our agenda. Is there a motion on the floor?
Yeah, I'd like to make a motion that we go into executive session for the purpose of discussing negotiations with the Lebanon Administration Association and